Hello, everybody. Let me just make sure I am on. I had a question about my microphone. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Hello. All right, happening now. It says it's happening now. I don't see myself. Okay. I'm just gonna wait for a minute. Let my phone stop freaking out over here and show me up. Okay. I'm on live, I think.
Hello,
Yes.
everybody.
Okay. All right. Awesome. I'm here. Yay. Hi, everybody. Happy August. Holy banana pants. I cannot believe it's August. Where did summer go? Hey, Sarah, how are you? I hope you're doing great today. I'm going to be looking over here at my phone because that's where I can see comments coming through. It doesn't look like I'm seeing comments over on my computer. So I'm going to try to be navigating a couple of different worlds here. So anyway, today we're going to be talking about sticky situations and slippery slopes. And for those of you who got my email today, I cracked up at the typo in the subject line, the slipper slopes. And I thought, how funny is that? Because if you were on a slope with slippers, you'd be slippery. It would be slippery. So anyway, I got a kick out of myself with that one. So anyway, for those of you who are coming in live, give me a heart, give me a thumbs up when you join here, because I can't always see who's popping in, but I can see those things going across the screen. So it's really fun for me to be able to just see that I'm not by myself over here. And then for those of you who are watching in replay, definitely let me know you're watching in replay. And then today is a little bit interesting because we are going to be talking about, oh, hello, Linda Fisher. How are you, my beautiful lady? For those of you who are watching live, and even if you're catching a replay, if you have some sticky situations or slippery slopes you would like me to address, whether that is today or whether that is in a future training, I'd be happy to do it, because what I see in a lot of the staging Facebook groups that I'm in is that there are a lot of sticky situations and a lot of slippery slopes that really could have been anticipated, planned for, and headed off if if as new business owners or newish business owners, we just had a little more information. And trust me when I tell you, I have literally made every mistake there is in the book. So I'm going to, I've had to learn them all the hard way over these last 9 years in business. So I'm going to be sharing some of my tips, ideas, strategies, things like that around some of the more common things that seem to come up. So for those of you who aren't familiar with me, I'm Lori Fisher of Rethink Home Interiors. I run a full-service real estate staging business in the Philadelphia suburbs, and have been doing that for 9 years. And I also work with stagers to help them become more profitable in their businesses so that they can thrive and grow, because the world needs us so very desperately. So anyway, with that, I am going to dive in today. So last week we talked about documenting your journey in kind of social media and your marketing, and this is kind of a similar thing in that we're going to be talking about documentation, because you really want to, as you begin to think about some of the sticky situations and slippery slopes that are out there, I want you to be thinking about documenting what happened, what my original business coach back in the day, Fabienne Fredrickson, would say is a groundhog day. Go back and look at where the breakdown happened, and was there something that you could have put in place, or you could put in place moving forward to have averted that. So it's a wonderful exercise. And listen, though, stuff happens, right? Some of it we can anticipate, some we can't. I think the first thing that we all need to understand and acknowledge is that real estate staging is still a relatively new industry in a lot of parts of the world, of the US. And I think the reason why I have made so many mistakes and learned so many great lessons around these sticky situations is because of exactly that reason. When I started my business 9 years ago, staging really was not a thing in the Philadelphia region. So I came across a lot of things where really it was more a lack of education and understanding about our industry, rather than full on somebody intentionally putting me in an awkward, sticky situation. I think a lot of people in various parts of the world in the country are familiar with the HGTV version of staging, which is not at all reality based. It's the difference between reality TV and reality. And so we also have to keep that in mind. So we might get people expecting, to call us on a Tuesday to stage a house, with all, vacant staging on a Thursday, which in many cases may not be realistic, though, the way our businesses are set up. We're also dealing with the public, and you will find that there is so much that you will learn about humankind by interacting with them on a much more frequent basis in your job, and that is a lot of variability that you need to be thinking about, anticipating, and probably learning from. But I want you to know this too. I'm going to share with you some of the more common things, and maybe some unexpected things that have come up over the course of my 9 years. But I want you to think about this. It's all a learning experience, and if we can frame things in a way that the universe is operating for us, not to us, that will help immensely. Now, that doesn't mean there won't be sleepless nights and stressful times and all of that. Those things can happen. But if we are anticipating some of this, making a plan, and protecting ourselves and our businesses, we will be better off for it. So I just want to get that kind of out there. And then the next thing is that I want you to think about is that what we do in terms of our staging, actual hands-on, is both a combination of art and science. I've shared with you over the course of these trainings a lot of the science, the brain science behind a lot of the way people respond. So if you need to go back and dig through and find those trainings, they are in there, because just knowing a little bit about the brain science behind what your recommendations are for a client can really help you in a conversation when somebody's giving you pushback. But there is also that art piece. So we are open to people not understanding or appreciating or even liking what we have recommended or done in the case of a vacant staging. And we need to anticipate that. And in the beginning, I think it's challenging because many of us maybe lack a little bit of the confidence. We're still trying to prove ourselves, and we might feel like imposters. And when somebody, asks a question or gives us pushback, it can kind of tap into that. And I want you to understand that if you can stop and just think, is this a question or is this a critique? Right? So if you can make that distinction, because you can actually handle them both very similarly, but if it's just a question, then you should be prepared with some answers for things, and we'll talk a little bit more about specifics in a minute. So I want you to remember that we have to determine if it is a question, if it's a critique. And if it is one of those, we also need to think about, okay, if it's a critique, is it legitimate? Like, do they have an actual critique that is legitimate here that I can resolve, and I can resolve it through a customer service process or system that I have in place? Or is it something that I'm not willing to resolve? So we want to begin to differentiate that. So I'm going to talk about that in some real life examples. And please, if you have real life examples, share them with me. I'm going to pop in and see what you have coming up. And I'm sending out 2 $25 Amazon gift cards today for people who participate and give me, some audience participation in here so that we can get the conversation rolling. All right, so let's dive into some things that are fairly common. The first one is, kind of starting way back at the beginning, is people will want to maybe negotiate your fee. Maybe they're going to tell you you're too expensive. I actually had this today where I sent out a vacant proposal and the person came back and wanted to do a little bit of negotiation. And so the way that I handle this is really very variable, and I'm going to tell you why. So the first thing is, when someone wants to negotiate your fee, they're simply asking a question. We work in the real estate field with realtors, with investors, and that is part of their job, is to negotiate. And if they're really good at it, they're simply going to ask you the question. Is there a better fee? Is there a better rate? There is nothing wrong with them asking that question. And I think what you'll find in some of the industry response to this is people are like, no way, absolutely not, and emphatic. And would you take a discount on your commission? I don't think there's any reason to be snarky in a response to, is that your best price? Can we negotiate? Can I get it for less? What can I do if I pay for this? It's simply a question. So if we can step back and understand it for that, then we can move forward with how we want to proceed. So you may decide, and this is my decision in my business, you may decide that for certain services you are hard and firm on your price. You know the value that you provide, and you know that you are not willing to concede that price. And that is completely and entirely fair for you to do that, is to not have a negotiable rate. But what you'll get presented with is, and this is a classic, well, I can give you a lot of business, especially if you're new and you've not worked with somebody before. I have like 5 more deals that I'm going to give you, so could you give me a discount? And what I have shared with my students is that I will say that I'm definitely willing to have a conversation with you about that. However, let's wait until we get to that 5th deal, and then we can have a conversation. And what I have found every time is that at that point they understand the value and the worth, and you will not need to do that. That typically happens with I find with a lot of investors. But the thing is, if you can stand your ground as a business owner, and you have to remember, you have a business to take care of. It's maybe just you right now, but it might not always just be you. And you need to be able to feed that business. So, as much as it might seem like, ooh, I should reduce my rate this time for this person, you can get in a slippery slope where you will never be able to charge what you are actually worth if you start at the beginning by devaluing what you do. So you've got to step into valuing what you do in that moment. And that pushback might also be like, oh, I'd love to work with you, but you're too expensive. And what my business coach, Toby Fairley, would say is, not everybody is meant to work with you, and that is okay. And as hard as it is, especially when you're new because you want to be staging, is that you'll want to give that discount. You will want to give the break so that you can get the work, so you can build the portfolio, so you can begin to share the results. It is a huge urge and push, I know, because I was there. But somebody like that, it may not be ready to work with you. They may in the future. They just may not be a right fit for you now. So you've got to start. The only person who can value what you do is you in the beginning. You've got to hold strong in that value. But expect that people will ask it, and be prepared to have an answer for that. Why you can't discount that, why you can't give a break this time. I will tell you from my real life story today that I was able to rework my furniture plan to pop in a couple of less expensive options to make this happen, and I did not meet what he wanted to meet. Actually, that was another interesting thing. And I knew that if I sent it back to him and I said, it's going to cost you X number of dollars extra per month, but I really worked it to get that number where it fit, I didn't reduce my rate at all. In the process, all I did was make a couple of different kind of furniture refinements for this vacant, and he was fine with that. He signed, I have my payment for that. That brings me to my next thing, non-payment. I see this all of the time in the Facebook groups. I don't know if anybody's had an issue with that. I hope you haven't. Don't give me a thumbs up if you have. Give me a heart that you have never had to experience this. Non-payment. One of the things that I had to learn early on, because again, a lot of the realtors in my area did not have experience with real estate stagers. They did not have somebody like a go-to person. So when somebody needed staging, they would tell that client, I found out later, that they're going to get 3 quotes or 2 quotes to provide to their client, which is good practice on their part if they don't already have a relationship. So I would field a call from somebody that would say, oh, I've got a client for you, but they would never say, you're one of 3 people that I am having look at this. So I would give them a ballpark over the phone, which is, I highly recommend, give them a ballpark for a vacant staging over the phone, and they would say, great, awesome, go out and go take a look at it. And I would spend the time to work up all the plan and give them an actual to the number quote, and then they would tell me that I was too expensive and that they had gone with somebody less expensive. So I learned very quickly that you need a red velvet rope policy around yourself. And if you're not familiar with that concept, that is from Michael Port, Book Yourself Solid. It's a fabulous book. He is an amazing person, and the red velvet rope policy is something that we all need to have around us in our businesses and our time, because our time is our most precious resource. We cannot get that back. So we can't be running out to every gig that happens. So what I learned to do as a realtor that I had never worked with, a client that I've never worked with who is not referred to me by a realtor I've worked with, I will go out to their house with a $150, what I call preview fee. That has to be paid up front. I don't step out the door without doing that. And I will share with you a recent story where we wanted to go against our company policy. My is a realtor we have always worked with. She was willing to pay that $150 fee. My assistant was ready to send me out to this house without giving a ballpark on the price. And I said, I need to speak to that client to give them a ballpark before I go out. I understand that she's willing to have me out there because the realtor is paying the preview fee, but I haven't spoken to her about a ballpark, and I don't want her to be blindsided, and I don't want to take that realtor's money if that's not a realistic budget for the client. Guess what? It was not a realistic budget for that client. So they canceled right away. So what I want you to share with you is that you need to have payment upfront for everything you do before you step out the door. There is a lot of time and money wasted when you don't do that on both sides. You could be following up with invoices for weeks if you're doing occupied consultations, or maybe e-staging. You just start running and you don't take payment first. That is your red velvet rope policy, is some form of payment to get you out the door, okay? Awesome. All right. So for those of you who are joining in, hi. Oh, yay. Shanie's here. Nicholas is here. Julie's here. Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to see you. Hearts. I'm sending you hearts. Hearts. And I'm looking over here because this is where I can see comments. I can't see them on my computer. So, anyway, what I was saying is, if you have a sticky situation or a slippery slope that you want me to answer, whether it's today or maybe I do it in a follow-up, please put it in there. I'm giving away 2 $25 Amazon gift cards today to people who participate. So love to hear what you have to say. Learn the hard way on this. How do you handle payment schedule, deposit for vacants? All right, since we're talking about this, it's a great question, Sarah. So we use Acuity scheduling is one way. So a calendar system is important because if somebody wants to do a preview, it has to end up on my calendar. So Acuity takes payment up front. The other way that you could handle it is that you simply send them, if you have PayPal, or I don't know if Stripe does this. I use PayPal for most things because you can send a link, a payment link to them. So I share inside of my e-staging consultation course how to set up your PayPal button. So if you are, and Sarah, you are a student in there, you want to set up a PayPal button, or you can hire somebody to do it. It would be very inexpensive to hire somebody to just tell you how to do it. And I send them the link. That's what I would do if I did not have Acuity. If I were to start my business today and didn't have that in place, I would set up a button for my vacant preview fee, and then we take payment in full upfront for all vacant work. And we also hold a credit card on file for the duration of their rental agreements that we charge on a monthly basis if it extends past their 3-month rental period. Thank goodness, a million times over, that rarely happens, but it does happen, and that's how we handle it. So we are in charge. We have access to that account always, especially with vacants. You've got to be really, really careful and protect yourself that way. So yeah, get a PayPal link. You can do it. I'm trying to think of another simple way to do it. I mean, Venmo. I don't know all of the tax law around taking Venmo for business payment, but I know people do it. That's another way you could handle that. They can Venmo you, but it has to be in your hands before you step out the door, before you do take any action, especially on a vacant and a consultation. Because your deliverable is happening and getting back to them very quickly, you need to have payment up front. Thank you. You get an Amazon gift card, my friend. $25. So I'm going to have Catherine at my office, admin at Rethink Home Interiors will be reaching out to you to give you your $25 gift card. Have fun. Can't wait to hear what you get with it. Okay, next up. Okay, so I'm going to talk about occupieds for a minute here. Resistance to recommendations. This is a big one, and this can come up in the form of defensiveness. It can come up in the form of, oops, sorry, just got a call. It can come up in the form of, sorry, totally something shiny happened. It can come up in the form of direct defensiveness or questions. And questions are good. Some people just really want to know the why behind you making a recommendation, and that's okay. And if you have taken any of my courses or taken any of my trainings, you will know that we have a lot of why for what we do behind all of our recommendations, because we've learned over time that people want to know that. Woo, yay, yeah, exactly. Sorry, Sarah. And so we've learned over time that people will just have questions, and we have to be prepared with answers. So if you are making a recommendation to move a piece of art or pack a bunch of this, you want to know why you are recommending it, and so does your client. So that's the first thing. If you're experiencing downright defensiveness, the best way that I have found to diffuse that is this: that if someone is defensive about your recommendations, I simply want to put it back into their hands, because what they're feeling in that moment is very likely lack of control. They might be feeling judged, even though you are probably saying things in the loveliest way. I put it back to them and I say, I'm making all of my recommendations just based on my experience with, all of the past work that I've done. However, it's up to you to decide what makes sense for you. But the last thing I want to have happen is that you hear something from a prospective buyer in your feedback that I haven't shared with you, because you'll wonder why I didn't bring it up. So I'm going to bring everything up to you that I think could be an issue, but it's always up to you to decide what you want to do. And that has been like magic. When I learned how to do that like 5 years ago, it's made it so much easier, and people actually get relaxed and they begin to understand it more. And I will also tell them, and I'll be candid with them, because we all feel sometimes uncomfortable having to share, whether it's taking down something that's religious or something like that. I will say with them, I really hate that I have to make this recommendation, but I think it's important that I think it would be best if. That's another thing. It's just, I want them to know it's not easy for me to tell them this news, right? Like one time somebody had a 2-story foyer that was faux painted hot pink and white, I think it was, and the price point of the house was going to be $700,000. And I said, I hate that I have to make this recommendation, but it's your foyer, and I think I would rather you do nothing in this house and paint this 2-story foyer, but I know that's not a straightforward or inexpensive thing, but here's the reason why. And I explained that the foyer, of course, is one of those super important rooms, blah blah blah. So again, you want to try to diffuse it, give them back some control, let them know that it's not easy for you to make, tell them the news, but it's important that you do. And people right away get that. Got it. Any way to get them to pay before that last minute, is Sarah's asking. So Sarah, if you're last minute, okay, so if we're talking about actually any one of the services, so with us, nothing gets initiated on our side, and we put it in our communications, and communication is really important to head off a lot of this. In our communications to our clients, when it's the get acquainted call, or it is in the signing of a client agreement, there is languaging everywhere that says we will not provide like an appointment date or an installation date until we have received our payment. So that really heads it off. And the thing is, everything in real estate is an emergency. I've learned, that whether it's an emergency or not an emergency, there must be some training for realtors. And I know that their clock is ticking on their client agreement, so they want things done as quickly as possible. But what I have found is that people will wait if they have to, a few days or whatever. So we get caught up in like, oh my gosh, they need it tomorrow, when we need to take a step back and lean on our policies, lean on our procedures, and say, and we do this now all the time. They'll say, when can you install? I say, we typically say from the time that you sign your agreement and you complete payment, it is X number of days. For us, it can be 5 to 7 days before we do a vacant staging. For us with a consultation, it's 72 hours. From the time you make payment, and because we use Acuity, it's already done for them. They've already picked the time and made the payment. But if you were not using a scheduling link, I highly recommend you do. But if you're not, you say from the time I receive payment, we are booking 3 to 5 days out or something like that. So you want to continue to communicate that over there. Okay. Anna, what is your best advice for connecting with agents for staging and focusing on virtual staging and virtual consultation so I can work with agents from anywhere, struggling to make these connections and could use your amazing advice? All right, I'm going to table that, Anna, for today, for this moment, but I will absolutely answer that question for you. Not a problem. I got you. I'll get back to you on that one, because I want to continue to get through. We've got a little bit more time. I want to continue to get through the last few kind of slippery slopes and sticky situations we run into. Okay. Again, with occupieds, what if they don't follow through with your recommendations? You spend all this time, you create your report, all of that good stuff, and they don't follow through with your recommendations. It's like, you're like, darn, I spent all this time with them, they didn't follow through. Again, I put it back to them. That is now your client's responsibility. And we've had it happen. We've actually had it happen during COVID where people know the market is hot and they're like, I'm going to just blow all of that off. So anyway, that we just want to say you did your best, you gave them your best advice, but I would definitely communicate with the realtor. We always copy our client agreement, our selling success plan to the realtor. And then if we notice that it really went awry, we will tell the realtor, like, it looks like they didn't end up following through on a bunch of the recommendations. I'm so sorry. I thought they were going to. They seemed receptive or whatever, or maybe they seemed defensive. I did my best to explain they're in charge, and it looks like they decided not to do anything. You want them to know that that's not necessarily your work product, but that's never really come up as a huge issue. The realtors tend to realize that we're very thorough because they've seen our reports and realize that very often it is their seller. Okay, Shanie's got one for me. One of my favorite clients asked for directions on another job for him personally. Budget and the look were important to him, to stay on budget and to fit into his working space. Specified furniture from IKEA. He wanted to be hands-on and save money. We were available via phone and questions. We checked with him after made his trip to IKEA. After, we were surprised to get a very terse email that had not been a good experience for him. Oh, whoa. Okay. All right, Shanie, I'm going to give you, because of that, I want to give you an Amazon gift card for $25. We will be sending you because we want to make a positive out of this. Okay. This is a really good one, guys, because I was going to say that's the next thing. People don't follow through. They don't like our recommendations. This could be whether it's design, or with design, it's a little bit different. You need your clients to sign off on everything. I think what I would go back to him with is I would reach back out, Shanie, and not shy away from it and say, what was it that made it feel like it wasn't a positive experience? Because you want to get an understanding of where the disconnect was. So if this is a service that you'll be offering moving forward, you want to understand how you can avoid this in future situations. Maybe it was a matter of timing, or it's hard to know exactly from what you're saying, but I would definitely reach back out. I just had a client say this to me about a builder that I've worked with over the years. The reason why he really likes this builder is that everybody can be great when times are good, but when times aren't or things don't go well, that guy still shows up and he still makes it right, or finds out where the disconnect was. So IKEA was too far. Oh, okay. Oh, so that's on him. All right. So that for that, if that is what the feedback was, then I would simply reach back out and say, I would just explain, based on the budget and the constraints, and I guess he approved IKEA, so I'm assuming he approved IKEA. You'd say I would commiserate with him. Oh my God, it's horrible. It's horrible having to put together all of that IKEA furniture, and whatever. You can make an alignment with him. That will make him feel better. Say, yeah, oh my gosh, it totally is such a bummer. I mean, the budget really dictated that we do IKEA. And so unfortunately, you get stuck with those IKEA directions. I would just lean it into that. It sounds like it might be a one-off service. And I would not worry too much about it, but I would definitely reach back out to him and align with him if he's somebody who can give you future business for your future real estate stuff. Awesome. Let's see. All right. A couple more here before we sign off. But the big thing is, I hope you're hearing, to be thinking about these things, thinking about a response, being prepared, having a process in place, right, that protects you and your business from this. Can they choose the furniture for a vacant? Just had brand new realtor to me asked if she could choose the furniture for a vacant, and I appreciated her asking the question, and I said actually, that's what you're paying me for. You're paying me for my expertise to select the right items. And in my case, I work with a furniture rental company, but even if you own all of your own large pieces, you can say, I have worked with this inventory so closely. I know exactly what furniture looks great in a listing like this versus that doesn't look so good. And I'd hate for you to be disappointed because you aren't familiar with that. But I just say that's what you pay me for. That's my job, is to know that. So, and she was fine with that. So, that's one thing you can do. The other thing you can do that I've shared with my team is that when somebody says, oh, can you show me what pieces you're putting into my house? Sometimes that's not easy, and it's also not really what they're asking. What they're asking is, how are you going to put my house together? They think looking at the pieces of furniture is what's going to help that. But in actuality, what they're asking is, how do you put a space together? So what I do is I share with my clients that I say, I'm not sure that showing you individual pieces will actually help you see how we pull a whole space together. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share with you listings that have items that you are likely to see in your house. And then I share the listing and I share the result, more importantly, what happened with that listing when they had our staging work in there. And every time people come back with, wow, your work is really beautiful, that's so nice, I really love that one room with those drapes or whatever. So that gives them a clearer picture than if you just show them a sofa or a chair. Not very helpful. So that's my response. That always seems to get people to be like, cool, I'm good. So that's that one. Not prepared for a vacant installation. How many of you have shown up to a vacant and there's stuff everywhere? I had a toilet somewhere in the living room once. This is a really easy one. This is about your systems, your processes, and your policies. With a vacant house, we always request, especially from an investor, it's less important with somebody who has relocated for business. I've never had a problem with this. It's typically your investors. We need a picture of the status of the house once the cleaners are there. So what my investors now do is they have their cleaner snap a picture of the spaces when they are finished, so I know that they are done. I also share with new investors that the process works, that we are hired in after the cleaners. A lot of them don't know that. They think that we come in and clean. So it conveys to them that no, we are not the cleaners. We come in after your cleaners, and we make that clear throughout every bit of communication we have with them. But then we also ask them to verify that the site is ready for us by having a picture of the cleaners. We do that before we ever pull inventory for a job. Really, really important. So we'll say we're scheduled to pull your inventory on Wednesday. We need a picture by, no later than Tuesday, end of business day. Site conditions, what does it look like, so we know that we're good to go. Okay? Awesome. Alrighty, next up for my friends, almost done. They don't like what you did. Sort of like Shani's. They don't like what you did. So this is one of those where you've got to think, is it an actual critique? Is it what's going on, right? So this has happened over the years where I've had somebody, it's never wholesale, they hated what we did, but it could be, okay, so you primarily do, yeah, okay, yeah. Oh, it's Shani. Okay, you do. Yep, you do. this is a big one too for occupieds, right? If you do hands-on staging, they think they're ready. So when we do hands-on staging, let me go to that first, and then I'll go back to the what do we do? What do we do if somebody says they don't like what we did? Because we're on that last one. For if an occupied staging is not ready, the way we do that, our service is called photo styling. It's the day of photos, and it is a limited appointment. It is an appointment that lasts up to 2 hours. We have 2 team members that go in. At the end of that 2 hours, we are finished. So we do as much as we can in those 2 hours. Sometimes it goes a little bit, 15 minutes longer or something like that. But we always will let the realtor know that the client wasn't ready for us. And for us, we only do a photo styling appointment after we have done a consultation with the appointment for the client. We no longer just go in and do a photo styling without that first. We want people to be ready for us, and they often don't know how deep we go. And so we've changed that policy. So you want to limit the time and tell them that you will get as much done as you can in that period of time, and that is it. That really absolves you of feeling guilty that you didn't get to everything, and it also makes it clear to them that if they haven't done their work, that their entire house will not be complete, that you will get as much done, and you will focus on the most important rooms first, obviously, and any kind of lesser important space may not be gotten to. And again, it is accountability, client accountability as much as yours, but communication on your part, because we are still educating our markets. Okay, so they don't like what you did. So again, I've had this crop up over the years. What we simply do is we ask them what are they objecting to, and if it's something that we can change quickly, we will, I'd be glad to send somebody over to change out something. But if it's bigger stuff, and I had this happen one time where somebody thought, I don't know, the coffee table that we chose was going to make or break the sale of their house. I just explained to them how much it was going to cost to come and make that change for them. And they decided that it was fine, and the house sold like 3 days later anyway. So you want to be thinking about, is there something you can do quickly to remedy the situation? Is there a reason that you can explain why you did something? Sometimes people just need to understand why you did or didn't place something the way you placed it. Or is it going to be a bigger thing where it's actually going to cost them money because they're being unreasonable, in your opinion? And you need to be thinking about the relationship and the long-term relationship that you might have with this person. So, if it's a realtor who you've worked with many times before, you may be willing to do a little bit more for that person because, they're a great referral partner, and, you want to give good vibes back. If it's somebody that you feel like is really more of a one-off and they've been difficult, maybe it gets down to a lot of the relationship, but again, a kind of a policy in place. What are you willing to do if someone isn't happy with kind of what things look like? And again, though, you will not be refunding money. You are the expert. No money back. As much as you probably will want, there might be a part of you that's like, I feel so bad they didn't, keep it in place, or I'll give them a break. Don't do that. Don't do that. Damage or theft to your inventory. This is where insurance comes in. For those of you on here who have inventory or accessories that you might be bringing in, especially to an occupied, if you do that, I don't recommend it. I know some people do it, but you should have a very lengthy client agreement for that. I was just recently asked by one of our students if she needed the same agreement for a full vacant versus just bringing accessories into an occupied situation, and I said absolutely same agreement, because in fact even more so, people are living there and the likelihood of damage and theft and all of that is much higher when people are living in the house. So you've got to protect yourself. If you need insurance, the Real Estate Staging Association has great recommendations for insurance, and you need to make sure that your insurance policy covers your inventory on the homeowner's site. It will not be covered by their homeowner's insurance, and it will not be covered by your insurance unless it is stated explicitly in the policy, and you want to understand for how long it is insured. That's a big one, okay? And then cancellation of your service for whatever reason. You need to be prepared that a house might go under contract before you install a vacant, or have somebody might get sick and not be able to have a consultation. What is your process for refunding money? Will you keep a portion of it? Will you refund it in its entirety? Will you not at all? Is there a window of time that a cancellation can happen? And again, it goes back to policy, system, procedure, and then on the secondary side, relationship. What is that long-term relationship? Because we don't want to burn bridges. If our policy says no cancellations within 72 hours and it's a realtor or an investor or builder that you've worked with time and time and time again, you may say, totally get it. Our cancellation policy says we need 72 hours notice and there's an X dollar fee, if there's a cancellation, but I'm totally willing to waive that because I know stuff happens and I appreciate you letting me know. And that is a lot of goodwill that you can put out into the world. Now, if someone's a frequent flyer and they do that to you over and over and over again, that might mean you need to sever a relationship. That's somebody who may not be valuing your time. So just some food for thought. So again, comes back to heading some of these things off, and taking a minute to realize, is it just a question? Is it a critique? And if it's a critique, is it something that I can handle quickly and easily? Is it something that needs to have a fee associated with it? It's all about your policies and procedures. So you can avoid all the stuff I did, which was chasing money, not getting paid in a timely fashion, showing up at installs with toilets in the living room, feeling like everything's an emergency and I have to get to it tomorrow only for them to cancel, reschedule. Like there's all those things. I've done them all, and you just got a little masterclass in all of it. So anyway, are there any other, how do you structure fee for consultation before photo styling, then fee styling? So they're totally separate fees, Shani, and I don't give a price reduction if they go with both of them. It's simply, they are what they are priced. If the client wants to add on that photo styling service, they can. If they choose not to, they don't. Very simple how we do that. So, and if you look on my website, you'll see on the services page, you'll see how that's broken out there. They're totally separate. So, because we've found that most people, with the way that we do our consultations, really can do the work themselves and like to. And then we have a smaller portion of people who really want that additional kind of make it look spot on perfect. So I had them packaged together for years and rarely sold the package deal. So we just made photo styling an add-on, like a value added. Okay. All right. Awesome. Cool. We have anything else? But you won't do a styling without a consultation first. Exactly. So here's why we made that decision, Shani. We do it for one realtor who has learned how to prepare her sellers. She was the reason we started doing it in the first place. But we stopped doing it because we had clients crying way too many times. And upset because we were diving in and they didn't realize how invasive we were going to be into their houses, because we have 2 hours. We get in there and we really get it done. And there were also people who weren't prepared. So we were entering situations that it was way too much for us to take on. It was so we just decided as a policy, no more. We do it as an add-on at this point, except for that one realtor. And again, it's just because she knows the state of what a listing should be, and she tells her clients, and they listen to her. So, yeah, because really, and this is also I think the other thing, it's policy, procedure. I don't necessarily want us to be handling people's things, and actually in the environment of COVID, not at all. We're still not doing photo styling at all, because you're handling people's dirty towels, their CPAP machines, things like that. I don't love us having to do that, and we've gotten so good at teaching our clients how to do the work of styling their spaces that even if it's not perfect, it's still good enough for them to sell, and they feel like they're in more control. So yeah, so that's why we did that. Awesome. All right, everybody. So Sarah and Shani are our Amazon gift card winners, so be on the lookout for that. I want to thank you all for jumping on and popping in and saying hi. I will see you next week, and we will be diving a little bit more into creating systems in the backside of your business, kind of some of the systems you need to have in place. So today was kind of one of them, your customer service slippery slope department, as it were. And so we'll be in next week talking about that a little bit more. And if you are new to me and you want to learn a little bit more, you can go ahead and download in the comment section. I have a link to the Profitable Staging Business Starter Kit, and that will get you onto the list to be first to know when we have trainings like this and new content information rolling out. So thank you. All right, everybody, have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next week. Hearts to everybody. Bye.